Hey everybody, it's Ron from Ron's Computer Videos. No intro tonight. We're just getting right into it. Um, I want to thank my good friend Jeff Williams for taking time out of his busy Friday evening to come and spend it here with me. We're going to talk a little bit about Jeff's game, Darkstar, the interactive movie. This is a cool sci-fi mystery. It is an adventure title. It is interactive fiction, and it is one of my favorite games. I
Uh,
haven't played it. I haven't played it a little bit because I haven't had a computer that I could play it on in a little bit, but it's a lot of fun. Jeff, how are you this evening?
I'm doing great. Sorry we're late. It's because of me. My
No,
computer.
that's okay. Technology, right? It happens.
Yeah.
So,
I have to say hello to a few people before we get
oh
started
yeah, absolutely.
because I put on my Facebook page that I would. So if they don't comment that I did, I'll know they didn't.
You'll know who stood you up.
And I instantly retract their name from this hello list. But I wanted to say hey to Sheila, Max, my daughter who plays
Hey, Max.
Mags the robot,
Mm-hmm.
Chance, my son, Cody, his cousin, my nephew, uh,
Mm-hmm.
Todd, my brother, JT Walker, my partner in crime, Roger, who you know, the
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Roger.
cinematographer, Clive Robertson, who I doubt's on here, but hi, Clive. Patty Rule Chapel, who did some of the music,
Mm-hmm.
Jen Odd, who I did a movie with, and Obi Harrop III, good friend of mine forever, Harv, Heather, Bo Satari in Eureka Springs, Kathy Loeffler from high school, Ramon, Travis, David Greathouse, who just called me to see what the hell's going on, and then Marion and Alexander Tate, who
Mm-hmm.
in the south of Wales is the guy that talked me into making this new movie version at the Mads Rift.
Mm-hmm.
My, my two Brads, Brad Ross and Brad Hedrick, both worked extensively on all this. I think you know Brad Ross. And then my sister Melissa and her family in Mountain Home, Arkansas.
That's
That's it.
great.
So,
Nice.
hello, everyone, and everybody else that happens to be on here.
Nice. Well, I'm glad that folks have stopped by to spend a little time with us this evening. I know that you have a bunch of things kind of going on right now with that's Darkstar related, and so I wanted to make sure that we could talk, especially because you've got kind of a deadline coming up. But I won't, uh, tease that until we get to the end. But I've got a lot of stuff that I really wanted to talk to you about this evening. And I think we should probably start with a little bit of an introduction.
Sure.
Um, uh, Jalen, would you tell people just a little bit about yourself, and then we'll launch into the broader interview.
Okay. Well, geez, I'm a stable genius. Kubrick, Spielberg, Howard Hawks,
Mhm.
you know, um, Citizen Kane, those guys, they got nothing on me. Uh, that's because they have a whole bunch of money. I make
Yeah,
I make Roger Corman look
well funded. Yeah.
yeah, well funded. So I'm a genius or an idiot. Kind of fluctuates throughout the day. Genius, idiot, genius, and I think I'm right about here right now. But the
Hmm.
more I talk about myself, the more the idiot scale goes through the roof. But I'm somebody who is driven by doing stuff, trying to be productive. I'm not happy unless I'm not doing something. You met me at Dragon Con all those years ago when
Hmm.
just releasing Darkstar, and I'd been working on it already almost 10 years by then.
Yeah.
And you actually were on the set of everything.
Hmm.
Been involved in this. Uh, oh gosh, you were in the movie Mead. I
Yeah.
don't know if you're in the trailer or not, but you're in the movie. So you've been kind of dipping in and out of my world quite a bit. So you know more about me than I do. And people will believe you more than they'll believe me.
Well, I don't know about that, but
Well, I'm full of shit. So that's part of the problem I have. But people seem to still follow me into the abyss to work on these things. So
well, they're a lot of fun, and I think that's really what it kind of comes down to. So, um, but what Jeff in being humorous, it's you are a musician, you're a director, you're a game developer, you're kind of like a visionary, and I think most importantly of all, you're my friend.
Yeah.
And you have listened to all my bad ideas over the years and humored me with things. And so I really do appreciate you coming by tonight to spend a little bit of time with us. But I want to say kind of a quick hello to the people that have dropped a comment in chat. Eric from Eric's Edge, good to see you tonight, Eric. Gut Bomb is here. Sheila is here. Sourdough Media, Thomas Armstrong. I'm sure that we'll get more people. They'll ask a little bit or ask a few questions. I'm sorry, I got to kill the screensaver on this this
Yeah,
Windows machine.
Sourdough Media is David Greathouse, who has done some of the music. He did one of the songs in the movie Everything, and he played a part where he plays Satan. And there's a scene where he's singing a Satan song.
No, I remember he's right outside of Doll's kind of like his place that's there but not there, interdimensional kind of clubhouse, however you'd say that. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk about a talented musician. He's
Yeah.
one of my best friends. Him and his wife both.
Yeah. I was going to say his song is very memorable. He's got a good performance in the film. So, but kind of as you growing up and things like that, I know that you were very much into sort of like, kind of outsider stuff as a kid.
Yeah.
Like especially like comic books and media and things like that. You brought up Roger Corman. You brought up Jan Strand with and I know that you have worked with Richard Corbin, who's kind of one of those famous people inside the sort of underground comics or kind of alternative comic scene.
Yeah.
Who are some of your inspirations? I know you're a big fan of Heavy Metal Magazine and all of that, but kind of as you were coming up, what was the media that you were consuming? Because what I really what I want to do is I want to lay a foundation for when we talk about the game and talk about the movie and talk about all that stuff, because I think that all of this very much informs the feel and the sort of like the experience of all this other stuff.
Well, when I was a kid, I mean, the movies that you'd see on our 2 channels on our black and white TV when I was a kid, that's how old I am. Those giant spider movies and Waves Grasshopper movies and Godzilla movies, they were just candy to me. And I started making movies when I was 11 or 12 because my grandfather gave me an 8mm movie camera. And so I started making my own movies, which sucked horribly for a long time. And toward the very end of me doing them, they got just a little better. And so I would act in special effects and stop action and weird animation ideas. And I still have some of those, and you will never see them. But there's that, and then comics. I was mostly into Spider-Man, and of course, House of Mystery, and some of those horror comics. Heavy Metal came out, Creepy, Eerie, Vampirella, all those Warren magazines. I just ate them up. That's where I discovered Richard Corbin, who was just my favorite artist. I mean, he painted tapestries. His lighting in his comics, it was so cinematic. And what's interesting about Richard and I, we both went to the Kansas City Art Institute 20 years apart. And I believe, this is just from what I learned of him, knowing him for so long, he really was a frustrated filmmaker, and I was a frustrated comic artist. And it turned out I was, good at making films, and I didn't have the manliness to get through the slog of creating a comic. And he actually made some films. He bought a 16mm camera from the animation studio, which was his first job. And I remember him saying at the time it cost about as much as a car. So, I got to meet him while I was at the Kansas City Art Institute. I had no idea he was in Kansas City, living on Bannister Road. So I didn't meet him until the 90s, and then we worked on several things together. So that was really exciting. And then I got to meet Jan, who's one of his writer partners throughout all the years. And then we ended up, working together on Darkstar. He did a lot of the pre-illustration storyboard type, developing the alien temple and the monster and things like that. And then I got into that film, Mead, which was from an underground comic he did in 1972. And when I bought that comic at the age of 12, I looked at that and thought, I'm going to make a movie about that someday. When I was 12, I kept working on trying to get it, into the queue even after Darkstar. And it was hard because his comics are very visceral. They're very violent, very sexually explicit. And this one opened up with a nude scene, and I just couldn't make it work. And finally, it was Jen and Rich said, "You don't want to open this with a nude scene." So, oh, thank God. So we got going. But that's kind of a little bit of
Mhm.
my background. Just everything movies, everything comics, everything creative. Just it was like, heroin to me. That's a bad analogy, but you know it was
You
something that,
you said candy earlier. That was maybe a little friendlier.
yeah, well, to some people heroin is candy, I guess,
I guess so.
but not me. I never touched the stuff, never will. So
Well, let me ask you this. You talked about some of your inspirations and things like that, but kind of what we're mostly here to talk about tonight is the game Darkstar,
yeah.
which it kind of has an anniversary coming up, and also has some other things that are going on right now. They kind of have brought it back kind of to the forefront after being released like 14 years ago this year, or next 14 years ago next month.
It was November of 2010. So
Hmm.
yeah, that's right, exactly. 14 years.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was gonna say it's coming up, but um, so for people that don't know, what is Darkstar?
Darkstar originally was an idea for a feature film. I was going to make a movie, and then my friend Brad Hedrick and I worked on a little interactive project together, and it just inspired me to think, what if I made it to where it's like a movie, but you're part of the story. You make choices and stuff, kind of like a Myst or a Riven or some of the adventure games.
Yeah.
Nothing about video games. The last video game I'd played before this, you had to put quarters in. So I got going with that idea, and just I got with Richard, and he kind of helped me do some concepting on it. I wrote a script and just started working on it, and it was pretty much 90% just me working on it alone. I mean, all
Hmm.
you see on screen, I did, which is why it took almost 10 years to produce and to get out
Yeah.
into the wild.
I get it. It's definitely something that was a real labor of love, and since you were kind of a one man development team, it took a while.
Yeah, about
And
half 3 years into it, I was laying in bed one night, and I just started doing the math in my head, and I realized, I mean, I didn't sleep a wink that night. I went, oh my God, I've got at least 6 or 7 more years to go. And it was like I was trapped in it, to be honest. And it engulfed a lot of my life,
oh
It's when
sure,
my kids were little, so I had to balance being a single dad with working on this Leviathan of a project. But it was really rewarding, and I'd do it again. I didn't get rich off of it, but a lot of people love it. And, the adventure gamers, they raved about it. Some
oh
said
yeah,
it was the best adventure game ever. Universally, the soundtrack is lauded and award winning and all that. But the Twitchers, they hated it. They said my house should be burned down so I don't ever make one again.
well, it's not really like a Twitch game, kind of. I mean, it's very much. It's kind of like you think you solve puzzles. It's I mean, kind of what I would hearken or kind of compare it to is because it makes use of a couple of different bits of technology. It makes use of QuickTime VR, which is for Apple people, for Macintosh people, was kind of a really cool thing for like a very long time.
Yeah.
You think about these days, you go out on Google Street View and stuff, and pan and tilt your camera and things like that, and look around 360. Uh, that was uh, a brand new thing
Yeah, it was
when you were.
brand new when I started, like all of the technology I started with, but by the time I was done, it was old stuff. So I really needed to have released it 4 years before I did, but it was
Mhm.
impossible. I was the only guy working on it.
Well, it's still it's even today it's still like a technological marvel that all this stuff kind of came together the way that it did. I'm trying to double check a file here in the background because what I wanted to do is I wanted to play the trailer, which is it's about 4 minutes, but I think it really gives. It's actually a trailer kind of for the movie, so we might wait. We might do that kind of at the end. since that's a little more involved. We might just show some people some footage here in a little bit before we transition to talking about other stuff,
Hey,
if that's okay.
your show, man. I'm just
All
seeing.
right. Well, that's very kind. Well, I mean, since we're gonna wait and we'll show a little bit of it here in just a minute. What is Darkstar?
Well, it began, of course, as the interactive movie, which is kind of like a very hot rodded out version of Riven or Myst or some of those adventures where you've loaded onto your computer. It's about 15 gigabytes, which is just massive for
Mm-hmm.
the time. It's not now, but it was then.
Mm-hmm.
You're a first person. The Clive Robertson is on this derelict Flying Dutchman of a spaceship that's damaged and floating out 400 light years from Earth, and you wake up with amnesia. So you have to find out what's going on and what your mission is and who's on your side and who's not. So you kind of go through that, and it stars Clive Robertson. He's from Star Hunter. It's a really cool series you should check out. It was produced.
Mm-hmm.
It's narrated by Peter Graves, his last IMDb credit. And then it has all of the cast of Mystery Science Theater 3000, which started with me meeting Trace and said, "Hey, you want to be in this thing?" And he's like, "Ah, what the hell?" And then he slowly helped me bring in every member of the original cast of the show.
Mm-hmm.
It's got a bit of a purposeful, campy feel to it in places, yeah, especially with the robots.
Mm-hmm.
My daughter plays the female robot Mags, and Frank Conniff plays Simon, who's my favorite part of the thing. Mary Jo Peel will tell you that's her favorite thing of the whole thing. And so, like you were alluding to, I had this friend in South Wales say, "You need to make this into a movie." And I said, "Well, I did, and it's a piece of steaming poop." And he goes, "No, I think you could." He goes, "Let me see it." And I played it to him. He goes, "No, I think you can figure out a way to make this good." And
Mm-hmm.
so I went ahead and did this idea of making it look kind of like a retro, This Island Earth, or even before that, with the day the Earth stood still, with film grain and all that, make it look like a 50s kind of sci-fi film.
Mm-hmm.
Really kind of capitalize a little more on the camp and the humor. And I think it works. You guys can decide if you think it does. But the Mystery Science Theater crew, they really liked it, and they don't like anything that they read, but they're in it too, so they got to kind of be used to themselves.
Yeah, I think they have to be a little kind of okay with it because again, they did put in performances and all of that, and that was kind of a big feat because it was. Uh, I think you were kind of developing this. You started right after um, the series had kind of ended.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Sci-Fi had just gone dark, and Sci-Fi Channel version of the show with Mike, and it was right about then actually met Trace through his comic. Here Come the Big People. Remember
Yeah,
that?
yeah, I do. I've got
That's
a copy of that in my MST3K collection somewhere.
that's how I met him. So yeah, and it just kind of ballooned and got bigger and bigger and bigger and more complex. And of course, every layer I added a year or two.
Yeah. I do remember kind of early in development that you were talking about how you had and I don't want to reveal too much because I had some other things that we were gonna uh, kind of share about the actual production and everything of the game. Um, but you had talked about I'll leave a little screenshot up here so that we've got.
Am I screwing up your flow, Ron?
No, not at all. I just want to make sure that I don't trip over myself because there's a lot of times I just get excited about whatever that topic is, and then I burn a question from later in the interview. So we end up with things that are maybe not as congruent as they might have been. Um, but yeah, Darkstar interactive fiction title. But like, what's kind of the story of it?
The story starts out with the Earth getting destroyed, and then you find this ship floating out in space, and the guy wakes up out of a sleep chamber after 400 years and has to start looking around and figure out what the hell's going on. And you find out that before the Earth was destroyed, the Earth did this big peace initiative and sent all of the nuclear weapons and bombs and stuff out into the void in these freighters. And then they shipped all of the criminals off of Earth and put them on a facility on Mars. Well, later, the people, the prisoners, revolt and take over Mars, and Earth just kind of, hands off and what the hell. And then one of these freighters, it's a big group of freighters, hits an asteroid and it blows up and it creates this rift in space, which is called Darkstar. And what it is it's a hole in space from that moment. So if
Mm-hmm.
you go into it at any point, you'll come out the other side at the moment that it was created. So the Mars people decide they want half of Earth's water. And the Earth doesn't like that idea. So Mars comes and takes it and blows up the Earth. So they send this mission out with these 4 ships. One of them is the Westwick, the one we're
Mm-hmm.
on. And the mission for them is to make it to Darkstar and go through the time hole and warn Earth not to do the Mars colony.
Right.
Don't do it. So that's the mission. And so there's a crew of 4, which is at Trace here on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
Joel is the bad guy.
Yeah, one of the Martians. He's the Martian Raider or Martian. He's got a special title.
Yeah, it's a scythe spaceship is what it's called. But yeah, he's a bad guy, but he's also a mercenary, not really working for his own. He's working for himself.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like maybe he has a friend aboard the Westwick. So we're trying to figure out who that is. And these are some of Richard's
Mm-hmm.
designs that he did of the alien temple, of the monster. I kind of wish I'd used that original monster he came up with. I love the one that I talked him into doing.
Yeah.
But I talked him into doing it because it was much easier to animate. The squid type thing, the Cthulhu Lovecraftian thing was going to be very hard to animate.
Yeah.
So
it ended up the shark whale, I think, is what a lot of like fans have kind of called this over the years.
Yeah. Richard called it a Dagon.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
The letter R out of dragon, and it's a Dagon.
Yeah. Also very, very Lovecraftian. I like it's got the shrew, that whatever that special little nose, like for sensory stuff. So a lot of stuff went into character design.
And no eyes. It has no eyes, which is
yeah.
But it looked great on screen. I mean, I was very pleased with it.
Oh yeah. This thing I'm flipping through right now, y'all, is the art book that came out, that kind of shows like the behind the scenes kind of stuff of like the production, a lot of like really nice glossy photos of like early concept work. Actually, we're just right here at the end, and all of that. And yeah, I really thought that was great.
Yeah.
Go back
and this is
menu.
You're actually have the game playing on your computer right now, right? This is So, we should talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, sure. Mm-hmm. So, but the so Darkstar, you're one of the few survivors left of a Martian attack on Earth. You're going to go out to basically this sort of event, this black hole out in space that is a time rift that will take you back to the before the rift was formed, so you can stop this thing from happening.
That's right.
And you wake up on the ship, and it's a lot of time has passed, and so you have to kind of pick up and kind of go. I think Clive is really, really great in this. He's the protagonist. That he's you in the game. As you kind of go and explore, he's got a little, like most of these games, he's got a little bit of amnesia, trying to kind of figure out like what's exactly happening. And other people, like you were saying, the other crew members, they've already woke up. They've had a little bit of time to kind of shake off the groggies and get on with whatever it is their motivation is.
Right.
But, so what was Darkstar? I mean, it's a game as it is here, but was it always intended to just be kind of an interactive fiction title? Or even back then, were you already thinking about how do we turn this into a movie? It's a cinematic experience, but how do we make it like that? Was it always supposed to be interactive, or was it always maybe supposed to be like a passive sort of thing?
Early on, it was just going to be a narrative, a linear narrative, a movie.
Mm-hmm.
And a couple of friends of mine, Brad Hedrick and a guy named Paul Lipscomb, Paul introduced me to the Riven and the Myst games. I wasn't a gamer at all, not even a tiny bit. And I watched, I played through Riven on a flight to Los Angeles one time, and I was kind of hooked. I was like, this is what I should do.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'd done the movie, I'd have been done in 3 years, you know. But it was the coding and all of the panoramas and all of the linear videos that went between each walking point. I mean, I could have made this like Riven to where click your boop, you were there.
Yeah.
I wanted people to actually, and some didn't like this. I wanted it to be where you had to walk around real time.
Yeah.
Walk over, you're going to take 10 steps and do it.
Right.
Now, I did program in most of those where you could click again and you'd pop there. But a lot of people weren't aware of that. A lot of people were irritated that I made them explore the pit.
Honestly, there's only one thing in the entire game where you are set somewhere, and it was because of, I remember you saying it was a technological hurdle, because so if you think about what Jeff's kind of talking about with the pathing through the game, there are waypoints you can kind of like blip, you can kind of zip to those things like zips, but it is it's very much like the Seventh Guest or the 11th Hour, where like when you you go somewhere, it's just a beauty shot of you getting to wherever that place is. And so you really get a feel for like how big this ship is. It's not like a little tiny room and you can kind of like just go straight over to what it was. And there were a lot of companies that cheaped out on that, because Trilobite, like the people that made the Seventh Guest, which is another one of my favorite games, they made the 11th Hour, which is kind of, but they reused a lot of assets, so they saved a lot of money on that sequel. But they came out with their third game was called Clandestiny, which is another kind of adventure gaming, or I'm sorry, a puzzle title kind of thing. In that game, it's all zips. You just go straight to whatever the thing is that you want to do, and people absolutely roasted them for that, because they were like, just the experience feels cheap and all that. I'm just telling you, the entire budget's on the screen. Jeff, I mean, it looks great even now.
Well, thanks for saying that, man. You know, and everybody, when it comes, I've made movies too, and this video game, and it's like, you know, I mean, look at what happens to Star Wars and Disney and all of that. You got the people that are just absolute haters, and you got the absolute fanboys, and then people are kind of in the middle. What I notice is that people that like an IP generally are saying the same things about it. It's the people that are haters and trolls, though they're across the board. Some of them will say, "Oh, your animation, your production is shit." Then others say, "No, your production was great, but the actors are so bad I can't stand it." Or, "Oh, I hate your music."
I think everybody puts in a solid performance in this thing, and the visuals, they're very much the J. Allen Williams style, which I am a fan of, or otherwise we wouldn't be having this conversation, I think. But I really think that everything is very shiny, and everything is very much inspired kind of by all this other media. That, I mean, from knowing you, that I know all the stuff you've kind of consumed over the years, so I see where it is. It's not like the dark grit, like Firefly sort of sci-fi realism kind of thing. There's some whimsy to it, and I think that that's a big part of the appeal.
Yeah, there's a lot of tongue-in-cheek stuff, and after Trace and I got to know each other, and we brought all the other Mystery Science Theater people in, I began to incorporate a lot more of that. For example, I'm not sure Simon existed yet. I know Mags didn't. But you know, some of those elements, and the Mystery Science Theater homage is all through it. You know, all these opening doors and stuff, and the ship, Satellite of Love from the show, is depicted in a way in there. Even the music as a music box, things like that. So, and just the general stuff would happen in non sequiturs and some of the humor. But the best humor is from Frank Conniff. I mean, I wanted him to be a robot, because he didn't do that in the show, and I wanted him to be it. And my gosh, he just, the best, funniest parts, and the best looking parts in Darkstar are him. And I remember recording him in Los Angeles. I think it was the same. I don't know if it was the same day. It was the same weekend that I recorded some of Clive's VO and my daughter's VO. But he just took to it like a pig to mud. You know, he jumped in. He was so funny. You know, he's Frank. You know, he's real good. Okay.
Yeah.
And then when you say action,
Mhm.
I mean, his tone and persona completely changed. Then when you say cut, he goes back to, he's
Yeah.
almost like that frog. And, hello, my baby. Hello.
Yeah, Michigan. Yeah, Michigan J Frog. Yeah.
Yeah, he's Michigan J. Frog. When you say action, he does it. When you say cut, he stops. It was the opposite with Michigan.
Yeah.
He'd be doing it all the time until you said
Yeah.
action. He was the opposite.
Mhm. No, it's yeah, I think like I said, it's I mean people are going to complain about anything, but
Oh,
it's just all the work that went into this. It's amazing, and especially like the production time frame and things like that. Kind of a single vision, and you know, like you're the director and you got final cut on everything. I'm sure that this was uh very fulfilling to kind of make that whole experience come together.
it was, and it was an alien experience for me in a lot of ways because I was so alone and sequestered in all the decision making. I'm used to working in a more collaborative environment, you know, in the advertising business and, you know, in some of my other production.
Mhm.
So, you know, doing music and studio and all that is more of a collaborative thing with the group. And I found myself, you know, 4 in the morning making a decision on, you know, something I was going to do in a direction I was going to take that was going to keep me going for 3 or 4 months. So that was something that was very different for me. And I'd reach out to some of my friends and people that were creatives, and they'd be like, I don't know, you know. And, you know, it was what it was. So I have
Mhm.
to take full blame or credit for whatever you're looking at and whatever your experience happens to be.
Well, let me ask you this.
Okay.
Kind of start because we've talked a little bit about the game and kind of your inspirations and things like that. I mean, I talked to a lot of people and kind of sold this as talking about the development of the game as well, because there's several people that are in the chat tonight that are like they're Mac game developers today.
Really?
Yeah, so
Welcome.
it's yeah, so they
Teach.
and they have much different tools
Right.
to use these days, where some of those things are kind of like uh, very turnkey solutions. Some of them are nuts and bolts kind of stuff. It just depends on the type of game you're making. But why did you choose iShell as the development platform for the game?
Well, we started actually in Director, you know, which I believe is what they did Mist and Riven in.
Mhm.
And about 2 years in, QuickTime cut Director off. So we lost 2 years of production building the damn thing in that. So at that point, it became evident I had to find, I wasn't going to find an off the shelf program to help us with it. So I found a company out of Los Angeles called Tribal Media, and iShell was their custom built product. So, say what you will, Darkstar is built in a very custom coding environment. Although I did most of the actual programming using QuickTime tools like
Mhm.
VRWorks, which created the panos, and then using traditional QuickTimes to walk between the panos. So these panos, you'd stop and you could look straight up, straight down, all around, move around, which you couldn't do in Riven or Mist. And I
Right.
was really excited about that. And I
Mhm.
tried to get into it where, say, there's a fire burning, you know, over here, and when you're panning around, the fire would be moving. We
Mhm.
were just shy of that technology, so I couldn't do that. But so I worked around it.
Mhm.
So I had to build an entire 3D world. Do you happen to have the cutaway of the Westwick that I sent over to you? That still?
Yeah, I probably do. I don't have it queued up though. So if you keep talking, I can work in the background to get that.
Yeah, I can vamp for you. Well,
Yeah.
I had to build this first off the ship, which had to be completely actual size, had to have all these working control panels that blink and stuff, doors that work, elevators that work. Everything had to be photorealistic as I could make it and build this model. And the ship wasn't all of it. I also had to build the planet, the entire planet, the surface, the mountains in the background, the sky, the alien temple, which Richard helped me with the design, Richard Corbin,
Mhm.
the scythe ship, which you finally find, the bad guy's ship. You go inside it and explore. So I had to build all these environments and then create all the activities that you do while you're moving around in these environments. So that was where it all started, is building all the models. And also at the same time I was building models, I was shooting all the characters, all on green screen. We shot some of it in Los Angeles at Laurel Canyon Studios, where the Mystery Science Theater guys would do um, cinematic Titanic, and I believe that studio was owned by Les Claypool. So we did some of that, and then I brought a lot of them here, and it was just a few weeks after 9/11 that I had everybody's flights booked, including Joel, Josh, and Frank. They preferred not to fly at that time, so I went to them. But Trace, Mary Jo, and Bees said, no, we'll come. So they came to Springfield, Missouri, and we shot their parts here. So that was all going on kind of in tandem. I knew what the rooms were going to look like when I shot them, so it wasn't a big deal. I just kind of did it, puzzled it together as I could.
I'm working. I may have them on my machine at work, unfortunately. If you have it somewhere there on your machine, it is possible that you could share it.
What should I open it in?
I don't know. You could open it up in any viewer app, and then you can click share screen, and you can just point it at that window if you like.
All right.
I know this is a lot of we're doing a lot of technology here on the fly, but
yeah, let me open it up in preview, see if that works. Yeah. I've got it open, and how do I do it?
Down there in the middle where it says like mute stop cam settings, in the middle it says present. You can click present, and then you can just point it at that. You can say what, and you point it at that window.
Okay. Allow stream. Yeah. Oh, so I selected, I believe, screen 2. No, it's not screen 2. Screen 1. There we go. Well, I can't believe.
Hey, there we go. It worked out really well.
Can't believe that worked.
Yeah.
So that is a cutaway of the entire spaceship. Of course, you're not seeing the entire ship because the starboard side is fairly identical to the port side, where you got another, other crew quarters, and there's the shuttle bay and the pod bay at the bottom, the bridge, middle sections. That gives you an idea of the scale of the ship. You can kind of see a little Clive standing in the bridge right by the oval window. But that gives you an idea of just the scale of the ship. And you're able to go to every single nook or cranny and look at it and explore it. And you find all sorts of things you got to fix, things that are broken, puzzles you have to solve in order to make it work.
Sorry, I was answering a question for someone here in chat. Eric says, it looks like iShell still exists. What version did you do your development in? And actually, if you don't remember, I know the answer to this question.
I don't remember. I haven't even thought about iShell for 14 years.
Well, it's the answer to the question is since it happened right after Macromedia dropped the Director product.
Yeah.
And it lost all the access to all those QuickTime libraries and things like that. So it would be like an early version of iShell 4. And it was, and I think actually, if I remember back correctly, because it used to be the company that actually makes the software, it was another, like a smaller firm, and then that bigger company bought them. And I think that was another transition that you had to go through too, because they had shifted all their support and all that type of stuff to like a different company. So I think I seem to remember that you had like kind of a pause where they were like moving all their support stuff and updating versions, and as Mac OS changed and stuff over time, just for compatibility. I thought you had some issues on the Mac support side, but again, this is like 14, or actually it's more than that. It's like 16 years ago.
Well, right at the end of development, right when we had a release date, and of course we had the nightmare with Universal Studios on all the Rush music, that the band Rush had given us the okay to use 24 Rush songs, including Tom Sawyer and you name it. And it was all, and they told us to go ahead and put it in there, because I said, I really don't want to put it in there until we've got ink. And they said, oh, Universal Studios will do what we said, and they didn't. Universal Studio increased the amount we'd agreed to by 10, which was over $250,000, and they wanted 30% of our back end, which
Yeah.
I just had to say screw that, and then my band did all the music, and I think it's better for it.
I think it's better for it too. It's because this is such a personal story, and it's so much in your style. I honestly, you've shown me in the past some like animatics and things like that that had the Rush music underneath it, just as kind of like a sample. But I cannot imagine playing it without kind of that wilder sound. It's that, I mean, that's honestly, that's the only way I can see the game these days.
Well, universally, that is the one thing in common with just about everybody, even the haters. They like the music, and I'm proud of it. But right at that end, we were rushing to, pardon the pun, to get new music put in place, and we had 3 distributors, one in Canada, one in Los Angeles called Cosme, and then Shout Factory was putting us out too at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So we were trying to get this all done and do testing and stuff, and there was something going on at iShell, and I'm not sure what it was, but we come to find out they had never tested it on a PC. They'd been testing it in boot camp on a Mac, which simulated PC. Well, they weren't seeing any problems because the Macintosh environment they were working in, QuickTime was indigenous, so it worked fine.
Mm-hmm.
These, as you know, what was the? I meant to look this up before I got on here. What was the OS in 2010 for Windows 4?
I think the support stuff for the game, it was like Windows XP,
That's
Windows 7. I'm because Windows 7 was like still kind of the new hotness. Or Vista, so like Windows XP, Windows Vista, Windows 7, that kind of stuff. That was the era. And I remember on the Mac side, I think the requirements specific, well, gosh, it's almost like I got a copy of the game right in front of me.
Yeah.
The Mac requirements is Mac OS 10.3.
Yeah, that's right. But we didn't have any problems in Mac, and I don't believe we had any problems in Windows 7. It was XP and Vista, and they hadn't tested it, and they assured me everything was good. I had no way to really test it to any degree, and we were out of time. So it came out, and I had to personally do tech support to hundreds of people on XP and Vista.
Yeah.
I got everybody running, I believe, except for 1 or 2 people out of 100. And it took sometimes 20 emails. And it was all related to how they had everybody was setting their XP and their Vista machines up custom, especially their Windows player. So even though they would install QuickTime, it still wanted to default to using Windows Media Player. So sometimes they'd have the audio and no video. And it was the biggest nightmare ever.
Yeah.
So now Mac OS is kind of cut off, and we haven't tested it on a new Mac exclusively. Brad's working on that.
Yeah, it'll be kind of difficult since the game is kind of 32-bit and newer, like the newer versions of the OS. Absolutely, you got to have a 64-bit version of the thing. But
right.
That's why I tell people, and that's why I've got it set up on a Windows XP box. It plays beautifully. And
it plays beautifully on my Macintosh when I have a program called Parallels, and I have to have it to use my 3D software because it doesn't come in a Mac. It's 3D Studio Max.
Yeah.
And so I have Parallels set up, and it uses Windows 8, and I can't get it to crash.
Yeah.
I mean, if you get the Blu-ray of Darkstar, the MADS version, it's got an 8-hour. It goes through the whole game.
Playthrough. Yeah.
It even goes through the death sequences. But I did that entire screen grab and playing through it. Never crashed one time, and it was like, good grief, it's gotten better with age.
Well, I think computers have gotten more stable.
Yeah.
And there is a sweet spot for like Windows compatibility for the game. Like a friend of the show and super talented guy Brad Ross was able to make it work on his Windows 11 machine. It doesn't work on my Windows 11 machine, but I think part of that has to do with like what has been the problem since day one, which is kind of QuickTime and the media sort of default things for players and all of that.
Yeah, I think that was Brad Hedrick that got it.
Brad Hedrick, I'm sorry.
That's all right, and he's still playing with it. So he's kind of trying to help us figure out, because anyway, to get to the end of your thought here, we're looking at trying to repackage the thing to where it's a mega package, where it's a big box. It comes with the installation of the game. It comes with the 2 CD soundtrack and the movie, all the cool stuff with it.
Yeah.
And, we just want to be sure that the game performs to a level we want it to.
Yeah.
I mean, we were able to say on our Kickstarter, where the game is available for $9, that, you know, if you've got an older machine, it'll probably work, but
yeah,
we can't guarantee it. This is a 15-year-old game, you know.
right.
And,
I mean, stuff falls out of the iTunes, or I'm sorry, the I guess the App Store on your iPad, like mid iOS update. So I mean, for this to still run on modern PCs is kind of a small miracle. But I mean, I was able to just I used VirtualBox. I installed Windows XP. I didn't install anything else. I just put the game on and it's running. So the entry, if you have a machine that it doesn't work on, is actually, it's not a super technical challenge, and I could probably put together a guide that would show people, like, basically, like, hey, this is the settings to use in your virtual machine and you get great performance. So
one thing I'll also bring up that Brad has learned in his research is that Windows does not support QuickTime in any way, shape, or form anymore.
no.
Because of that, on Windows machines, there are some security issues with using QuickTime on a machine. So you have to look that up, be cognizant of it. We're going to actually, if we do put this out again as a new version of the game, we'll put all that in there, links where you can go read about that, even before you buy it, to research that and be sure that you're okay with loading QuickTime onto your machine. Using, if you're in the Stone Age with, like you, on XP or Vista or Windows 7 or 8, because I'm in 8 on my Macintosh through Parallels, and it works great. I don't know about 9, 10, and 11. It seems to work to some degree, but we haven't got into it deeply to where I don't know yet. So we're still playing with that. But we've never promised here recently would. But before I put this out again, if I put it out again, we'll make sure that, you know.
Yeah, my machine that I'm actually running Windows XP on, my next test is going to be, I'm doing it through a virtual machine on there, but my next step is going to be actually doing it under Windows 10 and figuring out if there's any tweaks or what you might have to do, or if you hit a snag. So to try to help the effort, because I do think people need to play this game. It is a lot of fun. Again, like I've said, it's one of my favorite games. So I sure hope that there's an easy sort of way of entry for people to get in on it. But
well, we're thinking outside the box. I've even thought of, and this may or may not be possible, but to even put a disk in there that has a free download of an OS that we know will work on your machine, but that may not be possible for licensing reasons.
Yeah,
you know better than me.
Yeah, it might be one of those things where it's like, step 1, step 2, step 3, go to the usual places, and then step 4, get the game on there and go from there. So, but there's nothing that is against any kind of rules to make an install guide, make it a YouTube video where it's basically like, do these steps in this order, add this thing. If you have questions, ask in the comments, kind of thing. But so
yeah, that's exactly how we would approach.
Or who knows? You have all your assets and things like that. There might be a way to modernize this. Fingers crossed. So, but
I would love to reauthor the thing in a current OS, but that part was so crazy expensive to do.
Oh yeah,
and I just, you know, I'm not interested in investing a lot more into equity wise with not knowing, you know, how popular this is going to be.
Sure.
Even if it plays perfectly, some people love it, some people hate it. You know, video gamers are
people are fickle.
Well, and it's fine. God bless them. You know, I don't like everything I do, but Darkstar is an immersive experience, and it's real. It was really ambitious and really impossible to do. I can't believe I got through it, but I did, and I'm proud of it, and it is what it is.
Yeah. Had you, like, during the development, had you considered maybe making it a Macintosh exclusive game just because of kinda to overcome some of those technical hurdles, or was a PC port, like, always not really even a port, was a PC development of the game always in the cards?
Yeah, I went to the E3 4 years in a row and the GDC in San Francisco every year, and just was talking to all of the developers and potential people who might put it out. And it was just never even a possibility that it wouldn't be on PC.
Okay.
They just, no, it has to be primarily on PC. Uh,
Mhm.
at that time, things may have changed now, I don't know, but at that time, that was what we were being fed, that
Mhm.
our primary and Macintosh secondary. Of course,
Mhm.
I'm a Mac guy. I still got my
Mhm.
Macintosh computer, the Periscopes
Yeah. Mhm.
there. I,
Yeah.
I don't think it fires up. I got it from Brad Ross's dad.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah,
I got a little tiny one sitting right there.
yeah.
Only mine's painted orange for Halloween.
A lot of people turn them into fish tanks.
Yeah. You had talked about a lot of the technical challenges with Macromedia discontinuing software and Apple pulling licensing on things and switching between like having to restart production. But what was absolutely the biggest technical hurdle that you encountered during making the game?
I had to learn how to do it. I'd never done anything like this ever. I'm not honestly not a technical person, but just using the 3D software I used was a huge technical thing. When we started, Roger was doing a lot of that, and I'd sit with him and work with him, and we'd do it. And he had a life, and so it was going too slow. So I began to take it over and learn how to do it myself. So that took the first year and a half for me just to learn how to do that. Then I had to learn how to do all the VR work,
Hmm.
those the stitching, and of course I'm having to do just like a movie, do sound effects and dialogue, and
Hmm.
then try to make it look like they were really in the scene.
Right.
Uh, that was the biggest hurdle, is I had to learn how to do it as I went,
Hmm.
and that was it was crazy.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of you had talked about how there's a lot of like on the job training for making a project like this because it's like, well, I need this next thing, and it's like, well, now I got to learn how to do that thing, and then it's I can't imagine like all the CPU hours and things like that of like not just like testing things and trying it and then rendering that thing out and coming back and it's like okay there's an error here or something so we got to start over and redo that thing.
Yeah,
um
that was another slog, it was the rendering, and I actually had a I had five Inspirons as a rendering farm. So my main computer would send the frames, 30 frames per second, out to these computers to render each frame one at a time. Some of these frames took 20 minutes each to do, and if you do the math,
mhm,
there's 30 frames per second of rolling footage. So if
mhm,
I 20-second animation, it's going to take a week and a half
mhm,
to spit out. And like you say, it might not be right, because when you do 3D animation like I was doing it, sometimes an object will pass through the wall a little bit or not hit,
mhm. Yeah.
and you don't know until you've rendered the whole thing out, and then you go, oh, shit, I got to do it again.
Yeah. I remember, well, the other thing I think that's important to point out on that like that rendering time is that, and please take this as a compliment, there's a lot of fat in all this because it's not just like okay well the script says go from here to here. There's a lot of stuff where you can just walk up to a window and look around or you can walk up to a console and look at it and it's like I for people that aren't super familiar with QTVR, QuickTime virtual reality, there are like by default it's like 16 you've got like 32 or 64 like individual, so it's every frame of that times 360 pana 16, or it's like sorry 8 pana, 6 pan, yeah, it's so you're building that sphere. I cannot imagine like some of these little things were just incidental experiences that people might even not see because they didn't think to go over and investigate something. um that are just like, it's there. You can go watch it. You can go explore and see it anyway.
They were called cubics, and
Cubics.
they were 6, and you would think it looked like a box when you're inside. It doesn't. It stitches it together like you said, a sphere.
Mm-hmm.
There had to be. So what I did was I created an animation of a camera that I would position at all of the what we call nodes, places that you stop, and that camera would frame 1, look this way, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and it spit those out, and then I'd pop them into VRWorks, and I'd have a pano.
Yeah.
And inside the pano, I could put hotspots to things you click on, move in closer on, things like that. Of course, we built some of that into the operating system of the game, where you could do zooms and you it also had to remember all the things you picked up. By the end of the game, you're carrying way more shit than you could possibly
Yeah.
All these things that you picked up along the way that you need.
It's all back in hammer space.
Yeah.
You know, so yoink.
Right.
Hey, I got it.
Yeah, that's right. But the menu had to show you when you went and looked, do I have this thing? Do I have that thing? Key for the pod, do I have the codes? Do I have the gun I have to have? And not have a bad gun? And it's pretty complex.
Yeah.
I'm pretty pleased with the continuity and how it came out at the end, because it really could have had a lot of real continuity flaws.
Well, I know, like I was saying earlier, it's like there's a lot of stuff and a lot of attention to detail, and there's only one tiny thing in the entire game that you can't just break away and just do it. There is a house of cards. There's a table that you build like a house of cards, and you had told me at one time that it was kind of an animation, like you didn't render it the other way or from kind of a shot reverse shot, because it's a very cinematic sort of way you got to think about this too. It's there's no reverse shot on it, so when you get out of the booth where you do the thing, it basically just has to play that other animation in reverse, and you didn't have it. See, so once you're in there doing the puzzle, you can't really break away from it. You have to complete that puzzle.
That's right. And that and the maze were the two things I was most reviled for. And I thought these gamers would love it, because it wasn't easy. It was very difficult to do either of them. And you could get away with not knocking the cards down. It was a house of cards built, and all you had to do was click right on the little note that you needed, and you're fine. And you didn't. But if you knock it down, you gotta click around and figure out how to rebuild it, which reminds me a lot of Dragon's Lair, that Don Bluth video from the 70s and 80s, where you basically had to put $80 a quarter thing to find out the random moves you had to do in order to get through it. It was very simple, but you had to learn the moves, and that's
right.
And the labyrinth, on the other hand, you had to get into it, you had to get out of.
Well, there's a very similar puzzle in The Seventh Guest, which I think that they also got some flack on, where you go down underneath the house and there's a maze, and it's very easy to get twisted around. And I didn't have that issue with the maze in Darkstar, but it is kind of easy to get twisted around down there, and there is no way to just get out, not to just like abort this, I'm going to try this again. I mean, it is kind of forcing you to have this experience to do that thing. And I know that there are some people that have a mindset where it's like, I'm just going to step away and come back. Reload your save file. You saved before you came in here, right? Just reload your save file. Come on. Anyway.
And that's a given, and Riven and Mist, especially Riven, it had puzzles in there that were impossible. I mean,
moon logic. There are no moon logic, and that's something. Thank you. There are no moon logic puzzles in Darkstar. Everything logically makes sense. It's like, do this and this and this, and it accomplishes this.
Yeah, and I gave them so many tools in the maze. I mean, there's the "you are here" type things and all that, and you could actually look at it and kind of get it. You always knew where you were at, but again, a lot of people thought that was. I was more worried that people would think a lot of my puzzles, and a lot of them were very simplistic and easy to do, and that's
supposed to be fun, Jeff. It's supposed to be fun.
Yeah. Well, when I went through it, I cheated and used my guide, and when I was doing that, I realized this is really hard, and I could people off, but again, you can't please everybody. I mean, if I made it too easy, they'd say, "Oh, this is for this is a Fisher Price game," or what I did. You made it too hard, and we need to be able to escape it if we want to. And well, sorry, it's not the
No.
decision I made.
Now the computer is over there, but I'm controlling it remotely from over here.
Yeah,
So as you can see, a little thing popped up there at the bottom, and that's the virtual machine stuff. So
gotcha. And you're
um
loading a new game now.
yeah, I was going to start a new game just to take people around kind of the first area, so that way that they could kind of see the and we do have some opening cinematics and things like that. That this is for.
Yeah, I think you can double click that and get past it.
Okay. Oh, I did. I didn't know that. I normally just drag the thing to the end.
And so, do you have So it opens with a little pre-video.
Mm-hmm.
What's going on, what's happening in the opening credits.
Mm-hmm. It's got some kind of famous narration in this too.
Yeah, Peter Graves. That's right.
Mm-hmm. From what was that show he did in the 70s? It was
Impossible.
Well, I know Mission Impossible, but he also did like some sort of like a sci-fi or a mysteries kind of show.
Oh yeah, he did one of those.
Yeah.
Right.
But I know that there's not audio here, but it would loop our audio and all that, which would be really, really bad. So I encourage people to go out. You can go to Parallax Studios, the homepage, and they have videos on all of this. And at the end of this, I will play the video that has some of Jeff's great music in it. But this is basically telling the story about the Martians coming and destroying Earth.
Yeah.
And there is quite a bit of backstory here at the beginning of the game. I think there's like a lot of oh gosh, what's that word? There's a lot of storytelling here at the top of the thing, just to kind of get people up to speed on kind of the mythos of everything that's happening. But
yeah, I think you can click past all this and
yeah.
Yeah, you did.
But this is he's woken up out of his little cryopod.
Yep.
And let's see. Can I do this? Yeah, I can do this. Yeah.
Walk anywhere you want and go behind the sleep chamber first.
Okay. I will see if I can.
Yeah, just rotate left. Oh, you went forward. That's all right.
Oh, that's okay. Sorry. I'll get there.
But this is how you kind of walk from place to place. And now you can turn left and go click on Bee's pod.
Here's Bees.
Bees McKeever. She's asleep.
Yeah.
So I keep the actor in there all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Give it a cinematic feel, not just a first person feel.
Yeah.
Now,
you paid for Clive to be there, but gosh, you should really have him. You should have him on screen.
Yeah, that's right.
Here's a little bit of the UI. If you get outside of the window, there are kind of quick events that you can access. You can also get back to the menu, things like that. Save your game at any time, which is kind of nice because there are a few. I said there's no moon logic, but there are a few death kill events in the game where if you there's a planet you go down to, and with the Leviathan, with the Dagon, that if you do the wrong stuff, you get eaten.
Yeah, if you don't go down with the right gun, because there are two guns that are bad and one that's good on the ship, and if you get the wrong one, you're dead. And also these little purple hands across the bottom of the screen, those are all videos. Those are the ones that were going to have Rush music in them quite a bit.
Yeah.
And so these are chapters of the and so they as you open biolocks, there are these little hand locks all across the ship. There's one over by the elevator. But if you click those, it turns those to where you can watch them, and then they turn green one at a time till you get to the very end. And you have to unlock all those videos and watch them before you can take the shuttle down to the planet and go to the next stage.
Oh, is this Burke's berth here on the left?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's Frank Conniff's rotten corpse. So he's been murdered and his hand's been chopped off. You got to kind of wonder, why would anybody cut your hand off? Well, you got all these biolocks, so apparently somebody thought they could chop his hand off and use it on the biolocks, but apparently it doesn't work that way.
Yeah. Oh, there he is.
There's Frank.
There's Frank.
Yeah, making that face he makes all the time. That's the one. And go ahead and go behind pan right and walk behind his unit. Because it's one of the little switches, and you'll see these switches all through the ship. That's very Riven or Mist-like, where you throw these switches and it unlocks things. And this actually unlocks something way later in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Got to find and trip as you go.
Yeah, but that is kind of one of the things where this game very much encourages exploration and just hanging out and just taking in all the visuals.
Yeah, for example, yeah, well, like you just said, right here, you sat down in the seat. You can pan straight up and look out the window in the ceiling, and you can look straight down at, where you're standing or sitting.
Mm-hmm.
And that, this panel has all sorts of functions.
Yeah, you can unlock. This is, I think you do have to accomplish some goals first.
Yeah,
but then you can wake. Paige Palmer is Bees McKeever's character's name. So yeah, you can. I'm not telling you. This is for the folks at home. That you can wake her up, and yeah, she's really excited. Like, not in a good way. To be woken up at first. She tries to kill you, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, with a welder.
Yeah.
Plasma welder. See if you can go back straight, just turn straight all the way around and go to the elevator right there, that purple door. Let's see if it'll let us do a biolock there.
Okay.
I think it will, but it might make you do a bunch of other shit. I can't remember.
Oh, I dismissed the little video of Clive doing stuff.
Oh, you're fine. That's all right.
But there's the...
Oh, yeah. I don't think it'll let you do it yet. I think you have.
Yeah, I haven't completed enough stuff yet to get that far.
Yeah. Shows you how much I remember. Last time I played it was when I did the walkthrough, I think in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
We went back and added a commentary to the whole damn thing, which was a chore. 8 hours of commentary.
Here's that fire you were talking about.
Yeah.
You kind of pan and see it as it goes, but...
Yeah, but it has to stop looping at some point like that,
Yeah.
Go to the couch, and there's a little note there. No, back left. There you go. That couch just in front of the fire. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, you went past it.
Sorry. I'll get turned around. I'm doing this through the little virtual environment, and sometimes it's
a little wonky.
Well, I'm seeing it very small on my screen. So.
Okay, now turn around and click on the couch itself. A little bit more left. Yeah, right there. Just the center of that couch.
Okay.
And you'll sit down at it. And then turn to the cushions. Right about where that crack is when you got a hot spot. And a little higher, probably. There you go.
There it is, yeah.
And that is a clue for a puzzle. You're going to need codes later. So now if you go...
Better memorized it.
Well, no, it's there.
Yeah, you're right. It's in your inventory of items, yeah.
You have it. So there's kind of that functionality.
Yeah. I like it. There's I wish I had more save games, because I would take them on some of the action sequences and stuff. But again, this is there are parts of the game where you interact with other members of the ship. You go down, you have a little away mission. There is all kinds of media and stuff in the game to play around with. Let's see.
Yeah, that's showing security cameras.
Yeah.
On the outside.
See what's going on the outside of the ship. I think, isn't this the way you see that the Martians have shown up at one point?
There's a broken camera. It kind of gives you a clue. Click on that globe object. It's kind of interesting to look at.
Oh yeah, this is the CD player.
Yeah.
And actually, you could pick tracks from the game's audio and stuff to play.
Yeah, that's some high tech shit.
Yeah. Well,
now click it on the globe.
Yeah, on the globe right there. Yeah.
Got
I just
cute little animation, and it's got some cool Wilder music that's real loud.
What for folks that don't know, what's Wilder?
Wilder's my '80s band.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we did a whole bunch of records, and we still record. We're actually working on a cover of the song "Hair" from the Broadway show.
Oh yeah.
We're doing a music video for that as well. But just kind of
this is great. I didn't know that it was part of the game that the surface of the globe was covered with LSD, but here we are.
That's right.
Just please enjoy your tiny trip that you just experienced.
There's a bunch of those.
Yeah.
LSD trips.
So it was a lot of fun. Let me ask you this while I kind of pan around and look at some other stuff. But was it tough to find distribution for the game?
Yeah. No, I mean, we're nobody. So I met with literally every gaming company on the planet. I mean, from South Korea, Russia, Australia, and we kind of signed a deal with a company out of Canada. We signed a deal. We're working on a deal with Cosme, and they were going to get us in Walmart and maybe on some end caps even. And if you remember, that Cosme sent some folks out to see our panel at DragonCon.
Yeah.
And then we had, a Shout Factory sold it. They sold a lot of our other stuff too, T-shirts and other things. And then we did a website ourselves to sell it directly. But we lost the Cosme deal when the Rush went away.
Mm-hmm.
They actually said that they would do it, but we had to put, I think, $40,000 into marketing because they were expecting the Rush name to do a lot of the heavy lifting.
Yeah.
And so when Rush went away, we lost our Cosme deal. But we had the others. And then later on, a European company called Lace Mamba contacted us, and they signed us up. And they actually did a beautiful version of the packaging and the game with the soundtrack and everything. It's my favorite, actually, iteration of the thing, and they did a really good job putting that together.
I was gonna say that they really kind of came in and saved the day on that, and the European following on this game is just insane.
Yeah, that's where my friend Alexander, who I hope is on here, kind of came in. He worked for, I believe, a gaming magazine, and he did some reviews on it. And he kind of got hooked on it and really helped us meet some people in Europe that were excited about it. Interestingly, they didn't know what Mystery Science Theater 3000 was.
Yeah.
Back in the days, they had no idea. And I kept telling them, hey, this is a big positive. They said, who's that? Now they know.
Yeah.
Kind of prolific.
Well, it's taken a little time. It's it says it's safe to enter. So
well, I think you have to.
Yeah, I got to get around the thing there, but I'm again, I apologize that the stream doesn't have the audio and stuff, but again, this says atmospheric music throughout, and it is very much like it's a environmental rock theme. It's very Rush, but it's got that wilder flavor to it that, again, I cannot imagine the game these days without it. Again, you had shown me a little bit of the other stuff, and it again, I can't imagine not having it in there anymore. But the manufacturing and distribution, again, Lace Mamba kind of stepped in there and really helped out a lot with that. But how, like, contemporary to when the game came out, how was it received by adventure game enthusiasts?
Well, we got written up by just about everybody. I mean, Heavy Metal Magazine wrote us up. All of the adventure, gaming magazines in Europe and the United States, they wrote us up. Almost all of them said nice things. The big thing was, how did one guy get this done? So they kind of graded me on the curve a little bit. But still, I mean, I I spent little less than $500,000, which is a lot of flipping money to me. But I had a co-producer named Mark Walters, and he was the art director on the entire series seasons of Babylon 5,
Mm-hmm.
Queens. I mean, he's a pretty famous producer, and he came in right about when you met Mark.
Yeah.
He kind of emceed Dragon Con.
Mm-hmm.
He kind of came in on it, and I lost my train of thought. What was I talking about?
You're talking about the like how like what people's reaction was to it contemporary to it being
right.
released.
So he was really behind us and kind of pushed us out there, and so we had a lot of people that were saying great things about us, but some of them, Mark, I remember what I was saying. Mark he was working on a Spider-Man game for Activision
Mm-hmm.
right before he did Darkstar with me, and he said that was an $18 million production, and
Mm-hmm.
it was nearly as big of a world as what we built.
Sure.
So, that kind of gave you an idea. So a lot of the press gave us a little bit of a mulligan in that we don't know how you got this done.
I know how. Lots of coffee.
Yeah, lots of coffee. And I was up till 5 a.m. all the time. That
Mm-hmm.
a real night owl, and I was just working.
Plus like all your other production stuff and keeping a roof over your head and all the other things. This was just like the the story of just how this even got made is really like the thing that has always blown me away, because it's like the fact that you just kind of kept on and you were doing like your day job and life and kids and everything else, and then you've got this game that is just like taking up all of your free time.
Yeah.
And it took a while for it to come out, and I kind of joke about it, but it's maybe this is one of like the better kind of luck things. There's so many like luck things that kind of happen with this game, but
Most
it's like
bad.
well, it's if you think about it, it's kind of like it starts out that adventure gaming and stuff is kind of like at a high. It's at a peak. It's very, very popular. Full motion video, all that type of stuff. The interactive environment stuff, really high. And then there's a point where gaming switched, and it's like it's all Twitch games, it's all first person shooters and war simulation and things like that. And then as kind of those faded back, the games like this came back into vogue, and now they're back up where they started. They're at the other side of the valley,
Well,
where I mean that's great. And but the production took long enough that you kind of weathered, and you were like just hammering away working on stuff during the time where it would have been not great to maybe release a game like this. And then it just right as you came back up the other side, that was like Cinematic Titanic, which was Joel Hodgson and Trace Beaulieu and Frank Conniff and Mary Jo Peele and all those guys getting back together to do live tours and movie riffing and things like that. So you had a big exposure from those guys. It just seems like all the little tumblers lined up to make it just a great time to release it.
Yeah, we weren't the only ones to suffer from that decline of adventure popularity. I mean, Cyan was a multi-million dollar company.
Mm-hmm.
And, they were making props and stuff and selling them from the games.
Yeah.
They had Brad Dourif was in their fourth iteration, but it was right about then where even they were having trouble. And I met with those guys at the E3 one year, was talking to them about it, and I could feel their fear and frustration that that gig was starting to go away. To the Guitar Hero, Tony Hawk had a game,
rhythm games and all that. It's there's cycles on stuff.
Yeah, well, I think I hit the worst curve of that cycle right around 2010. If I had put it out in 2006. I'd be a lot wealthier than I am. But I did fine. I did okay. I do it again. I learned so much from doing it, and enabled me to make like the movie Mead. I was able to make it from what I learned from making Darkstar. And
Yeah.
one thing between Darkstar and Mead is they're the only two movies I know of, and I challenge anybody watching, that have an entirely 100% CGI world, not a single practical set, nothing, with live action actors and animated actors interacting with the live action actors. So it's the only one that I know of. I mean, you think of Tron. Well, no, about a third of that movie was made in the real world. Sky Captain, same thing. A lot of it came close, but a lot of it was in the real world. They had rooms and stuff.
A lot of practical. Yeah.
A lot of practical. I had zero practical. And a lot of people are like, CGI sucks. We love practical. I'm one of those guys. I much prefer practical effects like Phil Tippett and the stuff like that. But that was impossible. I couldn't build a set of the Westwick. It was just, I just as soon keep doing TV ads, But I decided to do that, and that was the tool I had to work with. And I worked with a guy named Jim Lammers. Hopefully he's on here. But he did 11 seasons of Archer. And he that Richard and I got our software from. And we'd go to Kansas City and give talks at his animation seminars and stuff like that. But he kind of helped us technically, both Richard and I. And Richard was animating too. He wasn't just doing the drawings. He was animated all the movements of the monster. He actually built the sacrificial temple in the temple. I mean, that iris that opens up and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, he did a lot, and it was exciting to him. I remember asking him at the early stages, how should I light this? And he just said one word, minimally. And that stuck with me. Every time I lit a scene, I'd go minimally. And that's what
it doesn't, not everything has to look like the bridge of the Enterprise. You can have stuff look like, or I'm thinking TNG, but you can have things look like 10 Forward. There can be shadow, there can be, I get that, but
Darkstar supposed to be dark. And
Darkstar.
And you're kind of reviving and waking the ship up, so it's got shadowy corners, and I wanted it to be mysterious and a little scary and a little bit, I mean, there were things on the ship that killed you if you touched them.
Right.
So needed to keep saving. Nobody to bitch at me for that. They seem to think, okay, I didn't save.
Well, that's in that era, that was like a typical thing, is like save and save often, and so that way that if something does go, you don't lose a lot of progress and stuff. So so that wasn't something that was like unique to this game.
Yeah, and again, I just wasn't a gamer. I mean, I played Tron and Defender and all those games at arcades. I didn't play games, and so I learned a lot from gamers on what they kind of expected to see and tried to create a kind of environment that they were used to. And so when I did Riven, I didn't want to play the damn thing and figure it out. I bought the book, and then they were selling Riven and Mist at the Office Max, at the Office store. I didn't go to the gaming stores; they were just at Office and like that looks interesting.
Yeah.
So I bought the book, and I went through all of Riven just in one sitting. On that airplane I told you about, and that's what I did. So I created the same kind of guide for Darkstar for people. I gave one to you. This will you can get through the whole damn thing, and it'll tell you, okay, before you do this, save, but you want, because you get killed, and it's a lot of fun. And there are some that are funny.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's and I think like the part of the teaser trailer for it, you actually showed the water temple, and you showed like the death scene and stuff there, where it was just sort of like to kind of catch people's attention. And that's something I remember. I was like, yeah, okay, this is gonna be fun. It's a little tongue-in-cheek.
Well, then the Mystery Science Theater guys in 2023, March of 2023, decided that they were gonna riff the new movie version, and it turned out to be their most popular show of the year.
Yeah.
And then suddenly somebody discovered that I had a Blu-ray that got a hold of a photograph of it. They asked Chris, the producer, Chris Gersbeck, is this a real thing? And he says, yeah, Jeff did a Blu-ray of it. Started getting lots of messages. Hey, where can I get one of these?
Yeah.
We did
We'll talk about that in like just 1 second. I got one last question about the game thing, and then let's shift into movie mode if that's okay.
Sure.
What I was going to ask is, what do you think the game's legacy is, and where do you think the future is for interactive fiction and adventure gaming?
Oh boy, I don't even know if that's a question for me.
Well, what do you think the legacy of the game is?
As far as the legacy of the game, it's a lot like other things that didn't hit huge. That the longer it's out there in the wild, people respect it more over time, and they look back at it. I would have expected that the technology getting further and further past where we were at would grade its legacy, but it seems to be the opposite. I think a lot of people are giving it a lot more uh, respect just because it was something that was done back when it was before 1080p. It was before flat. I was working on big tube monitor television.
Yeah.
Were just tube. There were no flat screens yet. The cameras we were using were pretty much 640 by 480, which is television time, which nobody could even fathom that anymore. Even your phone does 4K. So when you forgive it for being created at a time that none of that existed and still looks pretty darn good, it's a good thing.
Yeah, it's definitely it's I think it's a love letter to games like Myst and Riven and the Seventh Guest and 11th Hour and Clandestiny and like, oh gosh, what is that other one? There's so many, like Under Killing Moon, and there's a lot of those adventure interactive fiction titles that this absolutely belongs right next to those. So
well, we got a lot of magazines that were into adventure games that would say those things about us. I remember on the way to Los Angeles one time, and I was there dozens of times working on this. I was reading an article in a big gaming magazine, and they were just completely trashing adventure games. They talked about the aberration of Myst and Riven. I was like, oh God, is this? And I was still four years out, and I was like, oh boy, am I going to make it? Am I going to get this done in time for this to still be marketable?
Yeah. Well, we made it, and I think it's great, and I highly encourage everybody to play it. And we'll talk about at the end ways that people can get it and experience it. But I wanted to kind of shift because a couple of years, like maybe like a year and a half ago, something like that, you were like, "What do you think about this idea? I want to turn Darkstar, like the game, from this interactive experience to more of like a cinematic experience,
Right.
where you just kind of go through and you check all the story check marks and things like that." What inspired you to cut the game into a film?
Well, back right at the time when we released the game, I did cut together the best version I could put together at the time, and it just looked like poop. But I did DVDs of it, and we would throw them in the. If you remember the Captain's box,
Yeah.
and it was like Darkstar the movie, and I just did on a lark, and it was hard to do because everything was so first person in the game, and I was missing footage to do it. So when you ask what made me, work on this current version, nothing did. It wasn't my idea. And a friend of mine that I keep in touch with, who worked with one of the adventure game magazines in Europe, he lives in the south of Wales. His name is Alexander Tate, and he's always been a friend of the project and everything, including Mead and the movie Everything that I produced. And he said, "Why don't you cut together a more current version of the movie?" And I said, "I did it once, and it looks like crap." And he'd forgotten that I did it. And he said, "Well, can I see it?" And I go, "Well, let me go look at it and see if I want you to see it." And I looked at it and thought, this is just a steaming pile of crap. And but I put it up on Vimeo with a password, and I said, "Here." And he says, "I see what you're saying, but I think you can resurrect this. I think you can do it. I know you could take this information and make it into something that'll work."
Yeah.
And then I just started thinking about it, and it just haunted me. It bugged me because I don't like to be challenged, and somebody says, "You can do this," and me say, "No, I can't. I can't do that." And finally, I came up with the idea of, what if I took the footage and made it look more like an old movie, like a 1950s black and white.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the Day the Earth Stood Still, or Them, or some of those, because it's got kind of a campy vibe anyway. So I thought, what if I did that? Well, then on top of that, I found the pre-compressed video footage, because what I had done is I did everything at 600 by 800 at that time, which is still way below 1080p, and um, I did it at that size, but then all the scenes had to be gang compressed. So when we had the game put together, the iShell people had to run it through. When we started out, this thing was, I think, 24 gigabytes or something, and so it was going to have
Mm-hmm.
6 or 8 discs. It was just like they just were like, nobody's going to do this. It's going to be so expensive to manufacture,
Mm-hmm.
and so I gave them the license to compress it all. So they did. It still looks pretty good in the context of the game, but when you looked at it as a movie, it just people were going to look at it and go, "This just isn't what I'm used to seeing." So I found the pre-compressed video footage. So I just re-edited it all, and I made it black and white, gave it a little bit of a distressed feel, and I had to render a bunch of new scenes.
Mm-hmm.
Take my shots of Clive and stuff to make scenes segue into each other rather than all that first person stuff.
Right.
So that's what I did, and I put it together and I sent it to him and said, "What do you think?" And he goes, "I think you did it. I think this works."
Mm-hmm.
And then at one point I got hooked up with Trace and Chris again and talked to them about putting it on their show, and they did.
Mm-hmm.
Frank,
And that show is The Mads Are Back.
the Bads Are Back. It is, to me, the only way to see it. It is.
I've watched it regular, but I've played the game, so I've also got a little bit of a that nostalgia for that experience too, because I can be like, oh yeah, I remember that, or yeah.
Well, it's just like Weird Al Yankovic. Bands always say, "I knew I made it when Weird Al made
Yeah.
the song." It was the same deal. They were so good. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I asked Chris, "Is there any way they can script it like they used to Mystery Science and use a
Mm-hmm.
teleprompter, and that way things will be real tight?" And he goes, "No, they're not going to do that. They're going to, they'll want to do it raw and live." I said, "Okay, fine, that's great." I thought, it'll be pretty good. It was just, they were so funny,
Mm-hmm.
so good at it. And what was really interesting to me is they didn't really put me in the frying pan. They really, well,
Mm-hmm.
except in the Q&A talking about the Mary Jo's credit. But the movie itself, they many times, especially Frank, who's the most curmudgeonly about the quality of movies, was like,
Mm-hmm.
"This is really pretty good," and he was saying really nice things. And Mary Jo too.
Yeah.
And so that was really heartening. Of course, they were also two things they'd never done before: said something nice about a movie they're riffing. The second one, riffed a movie they're in.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
And I don't believe that they gave it the nice treatment because of that. I really don't. Then they even addressed that in the Q&A, that no, we're really tougher on ourselves than anybody.
Yeah.
But it was a great thing that they did, and it's the only way I think the movie should be seen, to be honest. But I did, because a lot of these people were like, "Hey, the game is in color. Can't we see a color version?"
Mm-hmm.
And I said no at first. No, and no. I've subjected myself to enough years being extracted from my life over Darkstar. But then I did that same thing I do. Oh, I've been asked to do something. I'm saying, no, I can't do it. I'm not. So I went back, and I was able to make, I think, a presentable color version.
Mm-hmm.
And the soundtrack on the new color version is a lot better. More sound effects, a lot more detail in the stereo. And it doesn't look bad.
Yeah.
The first one I did back in 2010 was just horrid. But this one isn't. It's not bad at all.
Well, it's pacing too. It's like for all of the fat in the game, because that has to be there for it to be a fulfilling experience. That fat has to come out of a movie, because it's more utilitarian, where it's like, I got to get from here to here because I got to hit this plot point, or I got to do this, and you got to be concerned about the pacing. There's a lot of exposition at the front of the game, but there has to be, or I'm sorry, at the game and movie, there's a lot of exposition there at the front, because you have to know that stuff, and it's parceled out in the game because you wanted people to kind of like slowly explore that world. The movie starts out with that exposition, and that was kind of rough, and I know that you tightened some of that stuff up. Um, but you did what you had to do to
Yeah.
get the runtime to also like an acceptable thing. But I you very graciously invited me over the night that they did the live stream.
Right. Right.
So we sat there and watched it in the living room. There were like people that had friends and production adjacent people and things like that, and everybody had great things to say about it. And yeah, it's the Mystery Science Theater 3000 people, and for people that may not know, their kind of stock and trade is making fun of bad movies. I don't think that this was bad, and I think they understand that it's not really bad. It's just that it's kind of a product of its era and things like that. And they were like, because there were several times that like I think even Trace was like, "Did you guys see that? Like, it's beautifully rendered. Like it's way more cinematic than I remember it being."
Yeah, I remember Frank making a comment in the first 5 minutes and said, Hollywood spends a shitload of money on the effects on
Mhm.
movies, sci-fi movies, and this is on par with that. When he
Yeah.
said that early on, I was like, I don't think I'm going to get roasted nearly as bad as I was
No.
thinking, and I didn't. But the problem with the thing is exactly what you're talking about there. The first hour, well, probably 35, 40 minutes, is all exposition. It's not till you leave the ship and go to
Mhm.
the planet that it turns more into an action film
Right.
and picks up. And you really almost need something to really have that at the very beginning if you're going to go
Mhm.
such a long amount of exposition. But there's no way around it. That was how they
No. Yeah.
manufactured for the
Yeah.
game. So I was kind of stuck with some of that. But a lot of people like it that way. So
Yeah. No, I like it. It's great. But with all the people from Mystery Science Theater that were because I know initially I think it was you just had Trace was going to be there, and
right.
then you added other people to the production that ended up being from Mystery Science Theater, having a comedy background. Um, since the game and the film features a lot of that cast, how difficult was it to kind of keep a more serious sci-fi tone for the game? There is some humor in it, but to not feel compelled to like rescript things and like lean hard on comedy.
Well, the arc of the story was the skeleton of the story and stayed in a very serious thing because I'm not going to give you a spoiler, but at the end there's a confrontation between the antagonist and our hero, and one of them dies.
Mhm.
Find out some not so flattering things about our hero.
Mhm.
So there was always that, but there were points, especially with the robots, Simon and Mags, where you were able to interject some real mystery science theater kind of stuff, like when O'Neill's asking Simon, "Who's this dead guy?" And he goes, "Well, they stunk for a long time, but they were somebody I could play with and talk to." And am I grossing you out?
Yeah.
That stuff, and, which Mary Jo loved. Those
Mhm.
parts of the whole movie. So it was just injecting these things where it gets serious at places and then it doesn't take itself super seriously in others.
Absolutely. I think that there's like you did well to pick the robots to be the comedy relief characters in the film because they can say things and do stuff that your human characters can't really get away with. And
Yeah, my
so,
daughter was only 11 when I
mhm,
went to Los Angeles, and she recorded in the same studio with Frank and Clive, and she was just 11, and then she came up. She designed the robot. She did
mhm.
on drawings.
Yeah, I've seen the drawings, the original drawings.
They're in the documentary on the Blu-ray,
Mhm,
but she did the drawings, and then she came up with this voice idea, and she decided to do it with a British accent, an 11-year-old girl, okay. And Clive was there to help her with their British accent. So
mhm.
I'm so proud, and she can't stand looking at it. I mean, when it
I
comes,
don't know why.
I just,
Max did an amazing job.
I,
It's
I think so too, and it's just so lovely that I got to share that with her because, she gave up just a little bit of her childhood because
yeah.
of her. So her being in it and a part of it is something really wonderful. Chance helped me with some things too.
So we've got uh, so we've got this film or we've got this game and it would turn into a film, and several years of like working through different versions of it, figuring out, settling on kind of a black and white throwback sci-fi sort of like vibe for it. It ends up being riffed by the cast of the movie itself. What do you think the legacy of the film is going to be?
Oh my gosh. Well, I again, I'll say it again. I think the only way to watch it in the promo that Trace and Frank did, Trace says, "Well, you can watch the ripped version, or you can see the unripped version." And Frank goes, "Nobody wants to do that." And it's absolutely true. I don't want to see it in its normal version, although some Mystery Science Theater fans do. They're the ones
Mhm,
who bugged me, said, "Oh, wow, we want to see this in color."
mhm,
Well, obviously, I couldn't do the color version for the Rift version because they're slightly different.
right.
It's going to be on Prime. It's going to be on Tubi,
Mhm,
Roku, Freevee. All those free streamers. The Mads version will be on there, and of course, I believe you can still download it at the Mads are back
mhm.
on Facebook.
Yeah.
So I think, and they just did a re-showing of it recently, which was kind
Mhm,
of they were wonderful to help with this. And again, I think as far as the movie version, um, what they added to it was the Weird Al Yankovic effect. I think it's a
mhm,
much better, easier to watch, and it's one where you forgive all of its technical, fallbacks and
mhm.
whatever, because they're making such great fun of it. It's like when Clive looks in the mirror and he doesn't recognize himself. He goes, "Who is this guy?" Josh goes, "A poor man's Pierce Brosnan."
Yeah.
Line, and I haven't. I'd like to know if Clive is okay with that line. And then
Mhm.
Trey said, "Yeah, I bet he gets that a lot." But then they
Well,
talking
yeah.
about meeting him at Dragon Con and what a nice man he was, and
Mhm.
then Josh had to kind of go, "Oh yeah, I'm sure he's wonderful. Sorry, I didn't mean to."
Yeah. Yeah. So you said it was that it's coming up on streaming. I know that it's available through the Match Back, through their web portal and all, or their web shop and all that type of stuff. You talked about it's going to be streaming on Tubi, and you said Amazon and some other stuff. I know that you've got distribution deals on a bunch of your other films, so that'll be cool to see that. But can we expect like even like a limited theatrical release?
I did a theatrical release on Mead. It
Mhm,
actually premiered at Cannes Film Festival.
mhm,
Then I did a San Francisco theatrical release with Robert Picardo, who's plays one of the main characters in it, as the MC at the theater. It was just gorgeous
mhm.
in Oakland, actually,
Yeah.
and it was a huge thing. It was so wonderful. We filmed it all and interviews and all the pageantry. We had the big logo wall and all that, and then we did a 2-day release here in Missouri. And again, we had a lot of the actors there on the first night, and they got interviewed. That was really fun to do. So I did that, and then recently I did a theatrical release for the movie Everything
Mhm,
right before it was coming out on all the streamers, Prime and Freevee, and all those.
mhm,
And the Darkstar movie is already it's been on Freevee, the unriffed version, on all those streamers, and it's for free too. You can go watch it on Prime or wherever.
mhm.
And the Rift version is yet to come out. They're working on that right now.
Okay.
So I would like to do a Rift one, but with the Q&A after, it's 2 hours long.
Yeah.
Two and a
I
half.
got time.
Ah, well, hopefully we can keep everyone's attention that long.
Yeah.
But every time I've done one of these theatrical things, it's been a blast, and
Mhm.
you haven't seen something you've created until you've seen it in front of a live audience, and that's something I'd like to do at some point.
That's cool. You talked about earlier, with this whole adventure, would you do it all over again?
Yeah, I would.
Well, I'm glad you would, because again, this is how we met.
Yeah,
So I don't know, I don't know if we would have met if it had not been for this project.
I don't see how you're across the state, way across
Yeah.
me, but yeah, that was a big positive. A lot of the people I met, all the Mystery Science Theater people, I mean,
Mhm.
Graves, meeting Clive Robertson, meeting Patton Oswalt, meeting and working with them, and Robert Picardo and Patrick Warburton, and some of these famous people, and then the probably 100 other local cast and crew of all these projects I've done. All my really close friendships are kind of grounded around these projects. A lot of people are watching with us tonight that I said hello to early on, and more that I probably missed. I'm going to hear about that. I couldn't do everybody, but that's a big part of it. And of course, meeting you at Dragon Con, you were just incredibly helpful. You just dive into these things. You're a talented actor yourself, and a technical genius when it comes to things like this. You're one of the few people I've talked to in an interview that understands some of these things probably just as well, if not a little better than I do, especially when it gets into the PC world and the jargon and the technicality that goes with that. I knew just enough to be dangerous, and I had to learn how to do that first before think about finishing it.
Sure. That's way cool. I'm glad that it's been an amazing ride, and I'm very, very proud to call you a friend, and I'm super glad that this thing has had multiple lives, because it was a fun project. It's a fun game. I think it's a fun movie. It's fun to watch it get riffed by the Mystery Science Theater 3000 crew. I think it's pretty good. But let's talk about what you're doing with it right now, which is kind of you have let me see if I can get it up here on the screen real fast. I'm going to add a screen, add a window, try to get this sized. Yeah, this is a good sized window. Jeff, right now you have a Kickstarter that you are running. I'm going to put the URL up here on the screen for people at home. And I'll also have, this is also in the video description for this video, but you're running a Kickstarter to produce Blu-rays.
That's right. So yeah, I'm going to print them up, and I did the Blu-ray that somebody on the Mads Are Back found out in the wild, and they put a picture up there, said, "Is this a real thing? We're going to get one." And the one I'm doing for the Kickstarter is a little more advanced. I've added a lot of B-roll to the afterglow commentary, and color corrected it, and made it a lot better. I added the commentary to the game walkthrough, and also added the new trailer that Trace and Frank did for us. Got 2 trailers, so it's the whole package, and it also comes with the CD of the music, the score. Now, the difference in the score for the movie and the score for the game. The score for the game has I think 38 songs, but the movie was cut down from 8.5 hours of footage down to 1.5 hours. So there's only 1 CD on that one, but that comes with the movie. But if you want the full deal, we've actually got the CD, the 2-disc CD on here too. So we threw in a whole bunch of stuff. I had a ton of autographed pictures from the entire Mystery Science Theater crew from back in 2010 that we had left over. I had some T-shirts, Darkstar, just buttons and postcards, and of course we're offering the guides and the coffee table book you were showing frames from for like $3. And we kept everything as cheap as humanly possible. I wanted things, on all the ones that Kickstarters that do a Blu-ray or DVD, they're $50. I've never 50. And I wanted it to be about what you'd buy it on Amazon, for. So I kept it kind of cheap so we'd get more of them out there, more people. And I've been just shocked at the response. And I know that a big chunk of this has to be coming from the Mystery Science Theater crowd, but I don't know. But I am seeing a lot of foreign backers as well when I check my dashboard.
Yeah. Well, again, this thing had a whole life of its own in Europe.
Yeah.
Just because, again, the gaming industry over there is a little bit different, and tastes are a little bit different too. So,
well, the Germans really loved it. I don't know what the deal is with that, but the Germans loved the hell out of it. And we sold this thing in 38 countries. I sent a ton of them to servicemen in Afghanistan.
Mm-hmm.
Those big box sets that we did
Oh
uh,
yeah.
to Japan, Australia, all the countries all throughout Europe. And again, I had help from Alexander and a guy named Sebastian Grunwald and some other folks. A lot of the Richard Corbin people were real supportive. Um, so it went everywhere. It just didn't. We didn't have a marketing budget. I mean, any movie or game that comes out, it sinks or swims on multi-million-dollar advertising budgets. We just didn't have it.
Oh yeah.
But over the years, like you were saying, talking about legacy, it's just been out there in the wild, and people run across, what the hell is this?
Mm-hmm.
We've got a few YouTube videos that are up above 250,000 views. And,
Oh yeah.
all my movies, if you put them all together, millions of people have seen them. There's one on
Mm-hmm.
the channel called Sci-Fi Central and Movie Central, and you'll find all of our movies, all three of our films on those. And just there alone, I'm over 1 million views. And so it's just, to think about that is just mind-boggling to me. And that I'm not a millionaire is mind-boggling too, because that means I'm only getting like 0.023 cents per view.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
You,
not.
you took doo-wop band in the 50s money.
That's right. Yeah.
But looking out here at the Kickstarter, you do have there's a nice video here at the top. I'm not sure how well it will play through here, but we're going to close out our video this evening with watching the trailer for the Blu-ray, which
Yeah.
features some good jokes and some good stuff from the Mystery Science Theater crew, and more kind of beauty shots and things like that of the Westwick and the other ships and
You
the
got
water
audio?
temple.
You
Say it
got
again.
you got audio?
Audio will play through the browser. If I try to play it audio will play when I send the file. If I try to play it through the browser, it'll be bad. So,
Yeah.
but we'll go ahead and we'll play that here in a minute. But what I'm asking friends of the show and people that watch the video, um, eh, I think you only there's 4 days left or something in the Kickstarter.
That's right.
You did really well. I think you picked a very modest goal to get things started, but every dollar spent helps fund future projects, helps pay for things like theatrical runs, helps pay for advertising and getting this into more spaces where people can watch it and enjoy it. Again, like Jeff was saying earlier, it would be really great to do well on this, just because having a new version that's kind of updated, or because they do remastered versions of things occasionally on Steam, where they'll go in and they'll fix, or like LucasArts games and stuff, where they'll go in and they'll fix the game engine slightly where it runs on modern stuff. So every dollar spent helps. That's not a promise, but that type of money helps fund those type of efforts, which makes these things live on forever. So conservation minded people, now's your time.
And it's gone crazy. I mean, this is 5 times what I expected the interest would be.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing. But you got some good rewards and things like that out here too, which really help. $15 gets you in the door on the movie, and I think that there's a lot of little add-on stuff. Even a dollar helps.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of really good stuff out here. The soundtrack is just amazing. We didn't listen to a lot of that, but we'll hear it in the trailer video here at the end of the stream. But again, if you like Rush, if you like metal, if you like kind of that, I don't want to call it hair metal. I don't want to call it like that type of thing.
Yeah, we
But
hate.
but it's got a cool sound. If you like that genre of music, you're gonna love the soundtrack. But there's lots of cool stuff here. I see you also added like some props and things like that. Yeah, folks should definitely check it out. Plus, make sure that you give a look-see on Jeff's other projects. Like he's got, I think here's like a bundle where it's all your movies. Mead is the movie that that I Jeff was gracious enough to cast me in a year or two ago, features Patton Oswalt as the voice of Mead, which is a sort of a spaceship that can tap into your fantasies and make you see illusions and things like that. Was a weapon, doesn't want to be a weapon. It's just trying to escape and be his own guy. And the comic or the graphic novel is really amazing. It's a fun story. I think he did a really a very a good adaptation of that to take what was like a 16 page, I think it's like 16 pages, and build that into a universe. Robert Picardo is in it. Bob Picardo, the holographic doctor from Voyager. He's he's on the Wonder Years. He's China Beach. He's in Legend, Amazon Women on the Moon. Is there anything that Bob Picardo hasn't done? No.
He's in every what was the guy who did Gremlins?
Yeah, he's Joe Dante. He's like in every Joe Dante movie. He's the theater owner in Matinee that gets locked out of his bomb shelter.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Bob,
he's great.
He became a really close friend through production. I mean, he cooked me the most incredible salmon dinner for my birthday here at my house. It was just a wonderful experience, and he's been a big help to boosting the popularity of the movie. And I believe he's getting pulled into some big Star Trek series that are on Paramount.
Yeah, he's back. He's back as the holographic doctor.
Yeah,
so
I'm real excited about. Maybe that'll help me a little bit, right?
Yeah, that's a good get. That's a good get for Bob, but I can't imagine them casting anybody else.
No, I can't either.
But and also Everything, which is your Sell Your Soul movie, where it's what's it worth to you? Everything.
What's it worth to me?
Or I can't remember what the tagline for the movie is. like what would you pay for love, or what is it?
What would you give to live forever?
Everything.
Everything. You have to give what's everything to you. It could be a comic book.
Yeah.
It could be a fortune. It could be anything. So, a lot of people come to me to either save themselves or a loved one, and they have to. And I play the death character, the angel of death. I remember when I was shooting in London, a cab driver who took us to Big Ben to shoot a scene looked at me in the rear view mirror and says, "Why are you dressed like a British dandy?" Well, British dandy. I had not heard that one.
So, folks, definitely check out the Kickstarter. It's got a few days left. Again, every dollar helps. So, but let's go ahead and I'm going to close that out there. Let's go ahead and let's do our wrap up, and then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do my best to play the file. So hopefully everybody can watch that and hear a little bit of that good music. So, Jeff, where can people find you?
I guess, I don't know, on Facebook, I guess. I mean, I've got a website, parallaxstudio.com, but I've kind of taken the email function off because I was just getting spammed. But my phone number's on there, so somebody could call me, I guess. But, just hanging out with you is a good place to find me. Yeah.
Hold on. I was going to put, I should have been a little quicker on the draw here. I was going to put the URL in the, I was going to put the thing. I will put the URL in the description for the thing, but
yeah.
And definitely check out all of, go ahead. I'm sorry.
You did an awesome job. These are good questions. Best questions I've ever been asked.
Oh, well, that's very kind. Let's go ahead and we'll wrap this up. We'll go ahead and play the video file. I think the video file just starts like when you click play. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to play the it's Darkstar. It's the trailer for the movie with the Mads. So everybody have a great evening. Thank you again, Jeff. I really do appreciate it. And let's roll that footage.
Hi, I'm Trace Beaulieu.
And I'm Frank Conniff, GV's Frank. You might know us from Mystery Science Theater 3000 or our own live riffing show, The Mads Are Back.
A few years ago.
A few decades ago.
A few years ago, Frank Conniff, Mary Jo Pehl, J. Elvis Weinstein, Beast McKeever, Joel Hodgson, and I acted in a sci-fi video game called Darkstar.
Why the hell did we do that?
You probably know Darkstar as a video game.
No, I don't.
But now Jeff Williams has turned the game footage into a feature film.
Starring me.
And me, and Frank Conniff, and Mary Jo Pehl, J. Elvis Weinstein, Beast McKeever, and
we riffed ourselves.
I'm sorry, access is denied.
That's so Mary Jo.
That's what I said to my husband on our wedding night.
A bedpan that flies.
My name is Simon, and acronym.
But that's not CGI. Frank had to wear that.
Who the hell is this guy?
Poor man's Pierce Brosnan.
Oh my God, the camera loves this guy.
Notice the way things have been going.
There's a reason why they shoot selfies from above.
I've got Sonny Bono's vest.
When America's getting attacked by giant ticks.
I realize nasty pants isn't a real word, and I don't even wear pants.
It's a planet where nobody is ever in the same shot.
That icebox really took it out of me.
This is like the movie After Earth, except I'm being entertained.
I can't believe that Jeff CG'd all this. Like, there's a lot of
It's
visuals.
amazing, actually, that
Yeah,
we did all
it's,
this.
it's overwhelming.
Shuttle doors open.
Bloody hell, this was some lousy water.
I like his leotard.
This is kind of like an old-timey colonoscopy.
An old timey with windows on your intestines.
Back when your colon was made of bricks and mortar.
Back when they used mining equipment.
Yeah.
And you had to bite down on a knife.
And hips.
I need to hear two things.
Pay check.
Oh, who am I fooling?
This is where the Crow and Servo really come out here.
And in the end, well...
In the end, the movie got bored and started playing solitaire.
John, Marcia,
Same with you and I.
gone. Marcia.
The devil's anus. This is how many riffs we've done.
Oh, God.
Oh, a woman must have been driving. I can never parallel park either.
You can watch the unriffed version,
No one wants that.
or you can watch the fully riffed version with Frank Conniff, Mary Jo Pehl, J. Elvis Weinstein, Beast McKeever, and I, plus the Mads are Back producer and Dumb Industries president, Chris Gersbeck, plus a special Q&A after the film.
J. Allen Williams. Hey, Jeff.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Enjoyed watching me being eviscerated.
You know, they went light on you, but the worst is yet to come. So,
Wow, that's a lot of us.
Just push the button, Frank.
Okay.
Well, there you have it.
Yeah.
That here, let me remove that there. All right. So that was pretty cool. Do we want to watch the trailer for Mead real fast since this actually worked out, and then we'll wrap this up?
It's your show, man.
All right. Well, give me 1 second. Let me see if I can present that to you.
To set it up, this was from a comic book from 1972, illustrated by Richard Corbin and written by Jan Stranad, who is now a good friend of mine too. And Richard passed away in 2020, just a little bit before the movie was completed. So he never got to see the finished version, which is pretty damn sad. I wished he could have, but it was his vision. His comic was the storyboard for this entire feature film. What it looked like if I made it in 2020.
Right. All right.
But yeah,
Well,
your character didn't show up in the trailer. Sorry about that.
it's okay. Here's the thing I want to remind you of. If you watch it, there's a bunch of places you can watch Mead for free. You can also pick it up on Blu-ray. You want to see the extras and things like that. But I'm in the first like 10 minutes of the movie, and the ship blows up, but you don't see my character die. And I do provide the female lead with a spacesuit. It's very possible that I could be in the Mead sequel. All you got to do, you give me a limp, an eye patch. You've still got my wardrobe. I'm ready.
Yeah, I'll do it. I'll make you look like Two-Face and Batman.
Oh, that'd be even better.
Part of your skull showing.
I'll be all mad that Rachel died.
Yeah.
All right. Jeff, thank you so much. I've wanted to do this forever, and I just figured that with the Kickstarter and everything like that wrapping up, this would be like the perfect time to kind of do that. Have a big long conversation. Let me gush a little bit on how much I love this game. Again, it's a ton of fun. I've played through it multiple times to try to kind of get, because there's a good ending, bad ending, there's things like that. There's lots of great extras. There's so much wonderful world building and storytelling. It's worth your time.
I encourage you to keep using
Joe Bob says it's a must buy.
If you say so.
So, everybody, thank you again, Jeff. I really do appreciate it, and I want to again thank everybody in the audience at home. Again, you have a lot of choices when it comes to how you spend your Friday nights. I'm super pleased that you spent it with us.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Everybody have a wonderful evening. This will trail out here in a second. Jeff, just hang out for a second. We'll talk after the stream ends. Good night, everybody.